Bring this meeting to order.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Moran. So tonight we have our beginning series of the County Commissioners FY25 budget workshops. So this evening we have the Board of Education, the Queen Anne's County Free Library, the Department of Emergency Services, and the Office of the Sheriff. So we'll be discussing those three agencies and departments this evening with this budget workshop. We did receive a presentation, the commissioners received a presentation of the overall administrator's budget this past Tuesday. So now we're going to get into some of the details of these various budgets and review them so that we can make any adjustments accordingly. So with that brief introduction, I will turn it over to our Director of Budget and Finance, Jeff Rank, and he's going to go through the book here, and then, we can certainly keep this as an open dialogue. We have the executive team here, the superintendent, Dr. Salins, and her folks here from the Board of Education to kick things off this evening. So, okay, Jeffrey?
First two sections, list of materials presented Tuesday night. So one of them jump to page 33, the Board of Education tab. And the first page is just a printout.
Oh yeah, give the mic.
The first page is just a printout from our budget system. The Board of Education budget, our allocation to them is comprised of these three line items, and the grand totals. The total proposed amount for next fiscal year is $73,885,000, which is $5 million above the current year FY24 allocation. Comprises a 7.3% increase over last year. This $5 million increase matches the Board of Ed's draft budget C, which you'll find on the next page. This document was distributed by the Board of Education and shows how they will allocate the $5 million next year. The next page, on page 35, is historical maintenance of effort back to 2007. The top section is the past 10 years, and the bottom is as far back as we've kept records. It shows of the past 10 years, $17,591,000 contributed above maintenance of effort. This also shows it's last year the Board of Education during the workshop requested 4.8 additional million last year's budget, 4.7 million additional for this FY25 budget, 4.8 million additional in 26, and 4.7 million additional in 27, and we're currently meeting the requests made last year, or exceeding rather, by 300,000 this upcoming year. The next page is the Board of Ed funding compared to total county budget. The top is operating funds, and the bottom are capital funds. For next year, the $73,885,000 would be about 38.6% of the total county budget in operating and 52% in capital. Note that the operating budget allocation does not include $1.3 million expense from the Sheriff's Office for school resource officers.
The Park and Rec's portion of taking care of the fields, correct?
It is in there. The $330,000 is included. The next page shows the Board of Education's capital requests for the next 6 years. FY25 shows primarily the Board of Education Administration Building and furniture for $10.5 million. Another large item is conversion of camera VMS to Genetech system, $600,000 allocated for furniture replacement, $350 for playground equipment at Sudlersville Elementary, $360,000 for stadium field lighting replacement at Queen Anne's High, and $703,000 for storm sewer repairs at Kent Island High School, among other smaller items. And that is the Board of Education request for next year. And I didn't know if there were any questions for myself or the executive team from the Board of Education.
Yeah, I'll just add, Commissioner Jack Wilson had mentioned about the maintenance of the fields and the grounds over at the Board of Education. And we do that with our Parks Department out of their budget. We do reduce the stipend we provided the Board of Education, so that is covered. Now, whether we spend more than $300,000, we probably do on those maintenance activities, and we have historically included capital projects in other county departments, like the sheriff's resource officers. We've added allocations to Public Works for resurfacing parking lots and things of that nature over the years to help with the Board of Education overall on the capital side. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. All right.
You guys are on. No, you got something, Chris?
No, go ahead.
So, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to come around the table and talk through the budget. As we all know, this is a very challenging time for public education as it relates to the implementation of the blueprint, not just the perfect storm of, the cliff from COVID funds. So we are very grateful to see the C item was actually selected, and that got an additional $5 million for those funds. If you look down along part one of, which is the middle section, you will see that we have the health insurance rate.
Page 34.
Case campuses, huge for us.
That's page 34.
Page 34.
We currently spend $14.6 million in insurance, and knowing that those rates are going up anywhere between 6 to 8%, we're likely going to see just over $1 million increase in our budget there. State things that we cannot control, like state retirement, and then a lot of the things as it relates to the blueprint, such as dual enrollment, the requirement to pay for dual enrollment, and also AP exams, and then all the other landscape things here that simply is cost of doing business. We all know that your water and sewer, your electric, your heating and oil, those types of things are all going up and continue to go up with inflation. So those monies that we put in that placeholder of $5 million will go towards these things. You'll also notice that there is an offset in our budget. I mean, we've talked about this on a couple of occasions, but if you notice at the bottom there, how would we balance our budget, knowing that we would have this deficiency, and that would be in position elimination. And we currently, with this budget in place, would be eliminating 53 locally funded positions and 24 grant funded positions, which will cease just because those grant funds simply have run out, and those include ESSER funds as well as needs grant.
So will these positions, and I know we've had this conversation, will these positions be directly related to programs that are not required by Kerwin?
Some of them are waived, but some of them are not. I mean, things that Kerwin basically focuses on the content, core content.
Correct, yeah.
So obviously some of the teachers that would be in that 53 would not be related to that core content.
Okay. So example of outside of it?
I don't know that I can share that because.
Okay, that's fine.
And it's not that I don't want to share it, it's because we.
I got you.
Enrollment, and for instance, at the high school level, students enroll in classes, and then we look at the need. So if we have, say, a department of 10 English teachers, we could potentially take one English teacher away, and then that would make the other class sizes larger. That's the concept that we have. So I don't know that I can give you a specific until we start to unfold what our schedules are going to look like for next year and where we can potentially take positions. But easiest to take positions, honestly, from high school, and then second from an elementary, believe it or not, because the way schedules work, it's more challenging and difficult because of the teaming aspect of middle school to take a teacher away. In elementary school, you have 4 elementary, 4th grade
So at the elementary level, what would be the average uptick in, just say, what is typically the uptick in students? Is it 10, is it 15 per classroom when you take one teacher away? What does it typically work out to be?
You know, yeah, we want to talk speak to that because I don't know exactly what that looks like.
Yes, so I think kind of the best estimate could say right now, with the way we're staffing the elementary school, we're able to somewhere for grades K to 3, K to 2 for sure, be around 18 to 22 students per class. 18 to 20 is really at the kindergarten level. Our third, fourth, and fifth grade, that's where we start getting into 23, 24, 25. If we have to do this 53 positions, you're going to start seeing your K to 2 classes approaching that 25 number, and the 4 and 5-year-olds getting 25, 27.
Fourth and fifth.
Fourth and fifth grade, excuse me, being in that 25, 27, up to 30.
How about our schools?
It's just going to vary between.
You got a bevy of classes in there, I think, right?
There's so many classes.
Yeah.
And we have so many, the diverse classes where like you have AP or some of your more higher level classes that typically it's hard to put more kids in, to be honest with you. I mean,
We still are around the 20 to 25 range for high school on average, but what we're talking about here, that would be 25 to 30 days. And it really just does depend on the selection of the courses that the students do.
That's basically within your basic reading or English, that kind of stuff. Your specialty classes, obviously, they're going to fluctuate based on enrollment in those.
Interest, yes.
So what are some examples of the grant-funded positions that would be
so the
lapsing?
grant permitted positions, we have, right now we have 16 permanent substitutes who are part of ESSER funds. We also, actually, the positions down in part 2, where you see ESSER teacher 4 positions, ESSER social worker position, and the migrant education position. Those, our team believes that we can't lose, so they would have to actually come in, and when they come into the budget, then we would, pull other teachers out to increase class sizes. So the 4, 5, 6, 7 plus your 16, and then we also had 2 community coordinators, one at each high school. There's 24 positions altogether. The permanent subs, yeah, 16. 2 float nurses. That's 24.
Is the ESL, the restricted fund that comes down through that portion of Kerwin, will that cover, because it's been restricted, we used all of that last year to meet the Kerwin need on the ESL side?
That and more,
Yeah.
Okay.
sort of like special.
So we exhausted all the restricted funds last year within the categories?
Yes.
Is there any part of the coming year's budget that's used to sort of pay some deficit from this year, or are these all new expenses going forward? Is there any shortfalls that this year that we have to make up with next year's budget?
Yes, and specifically in the health insurance rate placeholder, and then really the increase when you see things like the heating, oil, electricity, water, those custodial supplies, those line items in the budget have not been increased as it relates to inflation for many years prior. So we've been using basically fund balance to pay the electric bill because that category's gone over every single year. So to get out of that business of trying to wait and see what you have left over and to pay your bills is not really the most positive way to go about things. So this would help us to realign to make sure that we can account for the inflation for several years in a row and get us back up to where we need to be so that we're budgeting according to trend data.
So is it just trend data, or are we pushing some bills, electric bills, off to the next year?
No, we're not doing that.
What did health insurance go up percentage-wise? You know, what the jump was?
Last year between 6 and 8%.
And teachers are still, they're 100%, right?
Well, it depends if they're individual.
Okay.
They do have to be a percentage when they are either family or parent-child.
What's that percentage? If it's like, so it's 100% if you're an individual, what was it if it's, what percentage of it is it for family or teacher plus spouse, do you know? 90%.
You'll also notice, and I didn't mention this, but in order to get to this budget number, we talked about the elimination of 53 local funded positions, the 24 grant positions, but we also took out our complete textbook line item, which is $500,000.
I did see that. So looking forward on the blueprint, obviously, we have, 100 years left on this thing.
We wish we had 100 years.
I mean, where do you see Queen Anne's system in terms of getting to whatever that magical number and the requirements occur when, say, 5 years from now?
So I say we're working on it, I mean, pillar by pillar, I mean, this is frankly there's a salary enhancement in there because we have to get to that $60,000 mark. And unfortunately, to get to that salary mark, we're gonna have to take on the back of the size of the staff. I mean, we can't, the increases, the $5 million is great, but it doesn't go enough to get us on the path to 60. We're gonna have to eliminate positions too. We are moving in our pre-K expansion, so we're getting there. We'll meet the requirements of the blueprint of what we're doing with pre-K. Part of that is because the way the state has grant funding set up with the pre-K expansion grant, that's kind of front-loaded for every year, so we've been able to expand and we did it that way. So I talked about the 60,000 and what that's doing. That's pillar 2. Pillar 3 is this college and career readiness standard. That is exploding, as the families know, with the free dual enrollment. That's why we had it captured here. And we budgeted $120,000 and we exploded to over $300,000 this year. We are doing what we can now that there's a new CCR standard. We're allowed to go back to only paying for the students that meet that standard. That should reduce the cost by about 20%. We anticipate, but we're not completely sure. But that's what we're moving over.
So the 60,000 pillar is 27, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
3 years to get there.
Right. So as we sit here today in this system, and I know it changes year to year, how many teachers do we have in our system today that are under that $60,000 plateau that we would have to make up? What's our total number of teachers, and then how many do we have that are below that Mendoza line as we sit here today? Do you know? And if you don't have it right this second, if you could share with us another time.
Todd, was it 400,000 to get all those under 60?
Yeah, about $500,000, I think, is what we had estimated to get.
But then that's
About 100,
compresses the salaries. So.
below, right?
Well, right, and that's kind of your lead, yeah, you're getting to where I want to go is, so even if we did it today, right, and you're saying we were preparing for it to get to 27, wouldn't we be better served to wait till 27 at this point to get there? And the reason I'm saying is because you're going to have that increased exponential effect of the salary compression that's going to go on for 3 years versus the intent is in 27 you're going to experience it. It's coming, but I'm saying to delay it to 3 years makes more sense fiscally for the counties. I mean, let's face it, the state as a whole, because they don't have the money to give to us to backfill it right now. So, I mean, that's just the way I look at it is.
Bigger bump down the road.
It's coming, and I don't disagree. We tried. Look, we tried hard for the last 4 years to make sure that we were in line with where it was. And if you look at the original chart, we're there. But, you know, the federal dollars drying up and all that kind of stuff, that was all false money. We all know that. The state's suffering through it now. You guys are, all the school systems are suffering through it. So, and a lot of positions were created that now the money's not there to pay. So it becomes, okay, do we need this or do we need that? And then you add on oh, by the way, we got to be at $60,000, which, again, I'm not arguing the $60,000. I'm just saying the phase-in itself, how abrupt it is and how much it's going to hurt the counties, and not just us, obviously, but every county, you know, to take that, like Chris called it, bump in the road, and it's a big bump. You know, if we can kind of smooth that bump out, it may not be is bad, and we can work closer with you guys to try to, again, smooth that out to where we know where we got to be in 3 years. We all know that. That number's not changing. The law's the law, whether the teachers want to admit it's the law or not, or the arbitrator wants to admit it's the law. It's the law. So, and it's clearly defined in the law where you got to be and what you got to do. So, short of changing that, we know what that number's going to be. But if we can smooth that out between now and then, it would definitely, and I don't think we need to take the teachers to 60,000 this year or next year. It should be in 27 when it's proposed by the state, and all the teacher unions across the state got on board and rah-rahed it and said it was the way to go, so.
This placeholder would only be 1/3 of the way there. So this is accurate to keep us on pace to get to that 60. So we divided it out.
But you have other expenses that have come up that are probably more critical right now.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather take care of the immediate issues than the one that's 3 years down the road that's right now is not a.
And then we could plan better for it
Correct.
down the road, because for every dollar that goes into this budget, it's a dollar we're going to take out of something else.
Plus it
So-
becomes part of the baseline that you're paying exponentially on year over year after that, so.
I got you. So instead of making it equal payments, just kind of wait till the end, and we don't even know what's going to happen with law. I mean, you're not going to know that there could be legislation to change the timeline. We don't know that. And that is a possibility. So you're suggesting waiting until 2016.
I'd still like to smooth it out. I know we've had this conversation 100 times. We'd like to have a firm number that we know what it is. And I thought we had that last year with the 555. Predictability. Yeah, the predictability in the budget. But obviously, there's things that have happened that have changed from last year, and we have to deal with them. But now we got to think of the way to deal with them. That's, it's,
New plan.
yeah, pretty much, Like I said, we know where the goal line is. It's just, we're gonna have to run a few different plays to get there now, so.
Okay.
Any other questions or suggestions, comments? Anything else from the superintendent or your folks, your team?
Yes. And Sid, you're good on your side? You're good on the capital side? You good? Okay. All right, good. And you have done that, I give you credit. Maybe you can go down to Annapolis and teach them how to do it, huh? So we can all play like that.
Get a quick update on the progress of the new Board of Ed building?
Sure. Things are moving right along out there. They've got the sediment erosion control devices up, got a couple of stabilized construction entrances up. Had a lot of rain lately, so.
Say just in time on all that erosion stuff.
So we've had a lot of rain, so things are progressing not quite as quickly as they could be, but things are moving right along. So should start to see concrete here pretty soon.
How are your negotiations going?
You'd have to kill you.
She's on camera.
Generalize.
We have one unit that's going to the board for approval because they have, concluded. And so we're still working on the other four. And I think that the NSEA is very much has marching orders to be able to come in. And I think every district, we're not alone, is hearing the exact same thing on the other side of the table. So it's making it challenging.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have the Union County Library. Does anybody see Jim?
As a county-wide, yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they should.
My point exactly.
go through some preliminary stuff, and then we'll let you guys.
Okay.
Welcome. Commissioners, we're on page 38 for the public library. Their request was $2,782,887 this year, which is 7% increase over last year's budget. On the next page, we have a few of their enhancements. First two items, the maker space manager and facilities staff person were funded in the county commissioner's proposed budget. The mobile library assistant was not funded. And then on the next page, we have various operating expenditure requests. The first subtotal for existing staff pay increases was funded, which would provide a 5% COLA and 3% merit to library staff. The next subtotal for new positions, both, as I said from the last page, maker, space manager, and facilities, part-time facilities clerk were funded. Next, an upgraded position for the mobile library assistant. The county administrator did not fund in his proposed budget. Health insurance increase funded. Employee wellness program was funded. Time to Care Act contributions was not funded. And I wanted to make a quick note. I'd recently learned that the Department of Labor had put in a request to postpone that for another year. So that's why we did not fund it this year. On the next page, just a continuation of some various increases they've requested. All were funded. Same with page 42. Page 43 is their one capital request, $100,000 for next year to fund various improvements, which appear to be an upgrade of buildings, fire alarm system, and access controls, which is currently in the county's capital budget. Questions or comments from anyone?
Is the library on the county health insurance, or is it a separate?
They are separate.
I'm good. That's the question I had.
Okay. You don't have any other, have all this paper with me? You have no question.
I have a question for you. What happened to your, last year, unfortunately, you couldn't find a volunteer coordinator?
Oh, no, that was funded last year.
Oh, we did get that in there.
So we have that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Then I don't have a question.
Oh, okay. Well, that was an easy one.
Yeah, okay, good.
Well, all I can say is that I really appreciate Todd's budget. You did a very good job for the library, and I do appreciate you listening to us, and I'm glad to see that our increases were funded for existing staff because they work really, really hard. And I do appreciate the new positions that were included, and I hope those can stay in the commissioner's budget as you move forward because they are very needed positions, especially in the maker space. We're just going gangbusters there. So right now it's all falling on Julie, who's our branch manager, and she has the entire branch to manage, and she's also managing the makerspace. So having somebody else there to do that part of it and just kind of keep all the projects moving forward is essential for us to do any more than we can in that room.
You have demographics on the makerspace. Is it mostly like teenagers and young adults using it, or do you have a wide range?
Well, typically after school, it is a lot of the school children who are coming over are using it, but it is actually a wide range of people who are using it. People, the more they hear about it, the more we get people coming in to try it out and use it. They're there to use the sewing machine, so wide range of people. Yes, we have 2 to 3 two 3D printers in there, we have a resin printer in there, we have a vinyl printer in there, there is a laser engraver in that room as well, and then we have next door a bunch of sewing machines and a serger and you know, looking at more stuff. So. And I do appreciate the part-time facilities person because it has become very apparent having a much bigger building that we need another person over there to help keep everything moving. So appreciate all of what was included in the budget.
Very good.
Well, that was easy. Thank you.
Thanks for coming up. Good to see you, as always.
Always good to see you.
Next on the list is the Department of Emergency Services. All right, Tom, coming up.
I was gonna say, he's been through enough of these, he knows where to sit. Out of the line of fire, I get it.
Got enough chair? You got a chair? Yep.
Yeah, there's a chair right there. We got space for you.
Yeah, sure is page 44. Again, this is a printout from our budget system. Yes, total revenues down slightly, but not much. I would like to ask Scott, so the communications line item for $897,000, is that the line we would expect to double next year with the rate increase?
That's what our expectation is. The total 800,000 is not going to double because there's some other things tied into that. But right now, of that 800 number, about 500,000 of that is what's coming from that fund, and we're expecting an additional 500,000 after the change from last night or Tuesday.
1.3 then, basically.
Yes.
I just want to point out that's not reflected in that number yet.
And we just submitted the information to the state today requesting that.
That's a July 1 rollout there, right?
Yes, it is.
And next page begins their expenditures. 4.1% increase over last year, which is coincidentally perfectly in line. The total county budget increase is 4.1%, so it pairs up nicely. The next page is DES expenses by category.
So what's the special ops, what's the big bump in that, Scott?
The big change to that is position moving. So if you remember, our support services got transferred into, all our IT personnel got transferred into the IT department. There were still personnel left over, and they were transferred into special operations. So their staffing increased, but our overall budget did not increase because of it.
Total expenses by category.
Todd, just to be clear, these salaries and wages, they reflect the COLA and everything else that you propose?
No, they do not. Those are in a separate bucket, so if depending on what the commissioners decide to fund, they'll be distributed afterwards. We don't load those into these categories here beforehand. We do that at the end. But that amount of money is reserved for the departments, assuming that's approved at the levels we have.
Okay.
Page 47, grant fund revenues. End of, let's see. So I wanted to mention about the HSGP, or the Health Disparities Grant, decreasing.
Well, I believe the Health Disparities Grant is a grant through the Health Department that we manage, but the actual grant is funneled through the Health Department. So if you got any questions on the health disparities, Doc C would be a better person to answer that.
Well, the health department in general, so the bump they're looking for down there this year, part of that part of that's funded, right? For the health departments through the state, in the governor's budget, it wasn't?
It was.
Yeah.
But what that health disparities grant was basically for Knox boxes, the AEDs.
Okay.
A lot, that's where we've been running it through, because health department's not able to teach about the AEDs or the Knox boxes, and that's why it fell under. And it's in relation to essentially our vulnerable population that is mostly homebound, so that if something happens with, especially with the NIC team,
They can get in with the Knox
They
box
can
and all.
get in.
Okay.
So that's where that funding went with that grant.
And are we exhausting that? I mean, is that 97 make it short to get done what we got to get done, or what?
I think at this point in time, we were going to expend it all, and then we'll see what we come up with as far as grant applications, and look what can pop up over the next probably 3 to 6 months.
Well, keep us in the loop on that, because the MIC program does well, and we don't want to leave those people shorted.
We'll see
So,
where we go.
okay, all right.
The rest of the grants, unfortunately, we have been recently notified that the federal government is cutting a majority of the grants that we're receiving, but we don't know the impact of that at this point. But we know the other grants that you're asking about potentially are going to get cut anywhere from about 5 to 10% this upcoming year, but that's a global cut that they're doing across the United States. We don't know how that's going to affect the local jurisdictions yet.
The program grants, basically, or?
Well, as a couple examples, the bulk one that we get is our Homeland Security grant. So that has been pretty much a stable grant throughout the course of the last couple years, but they're proposing a 10% cut to it. And there's certain categories that we have to fill. We're just kind of the manager of the grant. There's a percentage, 25% of the grant has to go towards law enforcement. A percentage of it has to go to the elections. A chunk of it has to go towards cybersecurity.
Hours or anything like that?
So we've got multiple departments. It's funding that falls under us, but multiple departments are using the funding, not just us using it. Unfortunately, we're a conduit for a lot of people that we don't reap any of the benefits from, but a lot of people do reap the benefits from the grants that we receive.
Who's your grant person? Can they look into USDA and FEMA?
So we do have a grant company that is working with us right now, and they are, I would say, aggressively working on trying to find us additional grants. Currently, I'm working with them on a volunteer fire department grant, and we're just at the beginning stages of it. But we've been in constant contact with them, I'd say, over the last 2 months on multiple grants.
The problem you got with federal grants is they're going to go to less fortunate areas, typically. And Queen Anne's County, we don't rank in that category, so.
That's correct, but also the advantage for Queen Anne's County is typically, a lot of our zip codes fall under a rural area zip code. So that makes us eligible for things other people aren't eligible for.
Right,
So
I gotcha.
there's pros and cons with that.
Page 48 are the grant fund expenses that match the revenues for next year. Next, let's see. Next 6 pages or so are the line item expenditures for DES. Nothing particularly stood out unless anyone has any questions.
Overtime is from 23, 449 to 3,696 and 24.
Which one are you looking at? I'm sorry.
Which page are you on?
Page 49.
49,
49.
third line down, or fourth line down. Yeah, so you're budgeting on 22, 26 for 25. Is that, you were short? I know you've had issues with staffing, trying to get people in here. Is that one of the reasons?
The one that you're looking at is just administrative line. The higher overtime rates are actually our operation divisions, which is Zach's division and EMS. So if you go further into the budget, there's higher numbers in further in the budget. Typically, if we take our admin staff and work them overtime in other divisions, we can code it to that division. So sometimes there's not a need for as much from the year before as the upcoming year, if that's what your question is.
One thing I wanted to clarify is note that the FY23 figures are actuals. The FY24 figures is what he's budgeted for this year, but they may come in much lower. So it may be 449 again this year, at the end of the year, but that's just what's in the budget for this year.
Also gives us a slight cushion if we have any kind of disasters, because the admin staff is our prime EOC staff. So we put a little cushion in there for that.
Yeah, so a low number for overtime in the admin group means we didn't have any disasters. It's a good thing.
Yes, yes.
Like we did during the COVID year when we had, the EOC open for months and months and months. So.
And we had 4 personnel transferred to the EOC. We love working for Doc, though.
And if there's no further questions on the line items, on page 56 is our DS's enhancement requests. The first one being additional position and control manager, which is not currently funded in the county administrator's proposed budget. Page 58, an additional and a fleet coordinator, currently not funded. Page 60, communications captain, currently not funded. However, the two position change requests career ladder changes were funded. Page 63 is the capital plan for emergency services. Which for next year primarily includes 2 ambulances, scuba protective gear, cardiac care equipment, funding for the public safety network, and radio subscriber replacement for a total of $1.5 million. Each of the individual capital project requests are in the following few pages. I don't know if you wanted to go through these or not.
Funded for the ambulances, Tom? For the county ambulances? 1 or 2?
2.
So did we get off cycle somehow?
Yes.
2 ambulances, yeah, for FY.
We had a unit cut 2 cycles ago. We've got one on order that was purchased this budget cycle, but probably won't be delivered until next budget cycle. The last time we received new transport units were in 2020.
I thought we got it during COVID. Didn't we get some?
In 2020, we got 2 of them, and that's the last 2 that we've received. So the newest
Oh, we
units
had
we
other
have
ones
is
on order
2020.
that were budgeted, correct?
We have 1 on order that was budgeted from 2020 to now.
Cancel one?
No, we haven't canceled any. And we're seeing an increase, so we're also seeing an increase in the ambulance utilization with reduction in services. Within the region, we're doing longer transports, and our unit out of Queenstown last year did 40,000 miles in 1 year.
We're currently, what this is replacing is 2 2008 transport units that we currently have in service.
And when do you anticipate getting the one that's on order delivered? Is that?
We haven't even had a manufacturer date on it yet, so it's almost, we're definitely projecting it's not going to be here this fiscal cycle. It's going to be next fiscal cycle before we actually receive.
25 or 26?
25.
25, okay.
And we're not going to see these 2 if we place it on order immediately. We probably won't see them until the following fiscal year either. There's just such a backlog that,
Yeah, we're about a 2.5 year lead time, and fire trucks are now 4 or 5 year lead time. It's ridiculous.
but what Zach's plan is, and what we actually have in the 6-year plan is, we're asking for 2 this year, we're going to ask for 1 next year, and then we're going to hit 2 the following year, and just keep cycling like that until we catch up on what we have. But our fleet is, we're very nervous about where our fleet stands right now and how our units have aged. But we'd like to be in a 10-year cycle, and we're probably reaching 15 years on everything that we're going to be replacing in the next couple cycles.
You can see the replacement schedule on page 65 shows 2 in
That's what I'm looking at.
1 next year, 2 the following year, then 1 in 6, 7, 6, 8, 9, 9 maybe even so, 6 years on here.
And we'll probably have them delivered in a 10-year time period.
We have 7 units out active right now, right?
7, so yeah, 7 transport units and then 3 supervisor trucks.
So we'll be on the 7-year replacement at that point, correct? If I'm doing that right? You're getting 9 over 6 years.
Sounds about
7
correct,
out,
yeah.
so you'll be on
Yeah.
basically a 7-year replacement cycle. at that
Basically
point.
what we're looking at, yeah. Like I said, the thing that's killing us right now is just the distance and time and mileage that we're putting out, just because we have to go further for transports.
But a new hospital will be built in 28, so that'll shorten things.
That'll save about 5 miles.
You'll save about 5 miles, but it's not adding any additional service, so. We'll still be going to Baltimore and Christiana and all that for our high acuity specialty care patients.
I mean, if there's a need, we can look at, moving, get 2 ambulance each in the next 3 years to accelerate that, since there is such a large lead time, because we're budgeting that money, we're not actually spending it for years later, so that'd be something we can look at.
Kind of like Board of Education capital money. It takes 3 years to spend it after you budget it, so.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
It's probably the way to go, honestly, if you think about it.
Yeah, maybe we can order ahead.
I remember you said that next budget cycle.
Right, I'm writing that down.
I say, take the note on that. We'll bump
You
them
got
up.
that, Kelly?
I got that note.
Is it recorded?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, it's over the air.
Okay. Next page is EMS emergency equipment, page 66.
Some of this go to the volunteer fire departments?
No, it does not. So the core of what this is basically buying us 1 cardiac monitor this year, and we try to replace 1 cardiac monitor every year to keep everything in.
This is the PPE one.
What's that?
Emergency equipment with PPE.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
Page 66.
So almost an identical thing. That is strictly our protective gear for our department. That's not the fire departments. If you look in the overall budget, there is a line item for protective gear for the fire departments, and that's one of the grants that we're assisting them with.
Yeah, unfortunately, the grant eligibility is only for volunteer service, not for, for our DES folks, so that's the distinction, the reason why we can't get a grant. Volunteers obviously can, so we're going to pursue that. Yeah, leaders, yeah.
Next page 67 is the cardiac care.
And the quick scoop on that, which I started, is we basically get one cardiac monitor per year as a replacement cycle for all of our cardiac monitors. That makes them about 10 years of age when we're rotating them out. And over that 10-year period, the technology changes quite a bit. But getting one a year helps us stay in line. Then the rest of it goes towards our AED program. So it buys supplies for AEDs, and it also buys additional AEDs or replacement AEDs throughout the year for equipment that needs life cycled out.
How often do we have to replace the ones that we've put around the county in the buildings and all?
For the actual AEDs themselves, the pads and stuff like that are anywhere from 3 to 5 years. The AED itself, you replace the batteries in about the same replacement cycle. Anything that gets over 10 years, then you're looking at needing a new unit anyway. So it kind of runs right with cardiac care equipment. There's innovations come out about the same schedule.
Are we factoring that into this?
Yes.
Effort to get them in all the buildings, it's all factored in here to make sure that they.
Yep.
Yep. The only one that has a little bit shorter lifespan is what we've got in the deputies' cars, because they take a little more abuse than the ones sitting in the buildings.
We got the sheriff coming in, we'll have to talk to him about why they're getting abused worse.
Yeah. So, and what we've done with that is we've been able to sometimes replace theirs and then take theirs and refurbish it, and then we can deploy it to another place in the county until we can replace that with a newer unit.
That's good, at least they offer you that if they get them
Yeah.
refurbished, and that's good.
Capital funds for FY25 is on page 69. Funding for the public safety network.
The public safety network is basically, that's what functions Phil's room, everything inside the dispatch center. That's all the replacement equipment for that. It also is equipment required for Zach's units, and all of our response units have iPads in the front that are linked to our CAD system, and that's how we actually message back and forth, give our status, and the dispatch center is able to track where our unit locations are through the same function.
Oh, this one, I don't think that's what this one is. This one's, it says to build out the backup 911 center is the one I'm looking at. Right? Am I looking at the wrong one?
It's the same one, but it's not building out the backup center. It was building out a backup center. It's not now.
It's just not the right page, I guess?
It's not the right page. It's the right effort, it's the right request. It's not the right justification. The backup center is tied to it because there's equipment there too that we need to replace. Yes.
All right, page 70 is the radio subscriber enhancements. 4,000
So the radio subscriber enhancements, basically, we're responsible for the radio replacements or additions throughout the county. We survey all the departments throughout the county prior to budget cycle, combine their requests into our capital requests, and the breakdown of what department's getting what equipment is above the request.
Next, page 71, radio tower inspections and repairs. Oh, it's got no funding for next year. Let's see. Actually, that's it for FY '25 capital projects.
Any other questions for emergency services while we're here? John?
Yeah, first off, this is a big thank you. I mean, you folks are awesome. We are very proud of all of you and all the hard work that you do and our volunteers, and we're just very blessed. On the new ambulances, that if you do 2, 2, and 2, or whatever, is there technology on there that you're seeing that's coming down the road in the next year or two that is going to benefit your team and our residents in the county?
So that's a loaded question. So the transport unit itself, basically what's happening, technology change, is safety features within the transport unit. So there's a lot more built-in safety features every single year. So our units that are 2008 aren't equipped with all the state-of-the-art safety features that the current ones are. So that's the biggest thing that changed. Where the technology changes is all the equipment that we have on the transport units. So that's why it's critical for us to keep the cardiac monitors updated. Zach has a slew of equipment that we have. It's specialty equipment that no other jurisdiction has, in some cases across the state, which separates us a lot from other agencies across the state.
Yeah, a lot of the equipment in the ambulance itself, like Scott said, it's safety features, but there's also stuff to protect the providers too, right? So the 2008 ambulances that we were looking at replacing this year, they don't have what we call the auto load system in it, so it's still, providers are manually having to lift with their back to lift the stretcher up and then have the stretcher pull its legs up itself, where you guys, I think we've demoed the newer ones that actually have the system where it's a hydraulic system that lifts the stretcher entirely and mitigates the risk of back injuries for our employees. So it's a key component. It's something that's missing whenever we have those older units in service.
And the older ones don't have that bed that you're talking about?
No, and the amount of money that it would take to refurb one of those and all of that, you're just better off buying it.
We would be wasting our money trying to refurb them.
I'm sorry?
We would be wasting our money trying to refurb the old ambulances to get them up to speed with what the current ones
I've
are.
seen the one at Queenstown.
Yeah, that power load
Actually
system.
done it.
Yeah.
You just press the button and it picks up a 400-pound person.
Yeah, and they can be sitting there right at the tip and it's
How
completely
many
stable.
how many of your units have that? I think it's a Stryker thing, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is Stryker, and all of our frontline units have it. Where we start running into trouble is when things go out of service and we're running reserve
So,
units.
yeah, all the front lines have it, but none of the reserves do. So anytime we go into a reserve unit, we're putting folks at risk, or higher risk of that.
This time of year, when the weather changes, quite a bit. Because we're going to have a lot of air conditioning issues, and it's historic. Every time the weather changes, we have a lot of issues with the units, and they're in the shop quite a bit.
You're going to have more road traffic too.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Hearing any rumblings of a push to get the ambulances to EV in any one of these cycles coming up?
No.
Okay.
No rumblings about that right now.
Yeah, the only thing I've seen is they have stuff about the battery idling technology, but everything that they're pushing is refurbed stuff that you have to take your existing ambulance and then they will go in and they'll put in basically a bunch of battery cells that will be basically engine off idle, but there's no real use case.
How about on like the supervisor units and all that, any of the smaller stuff that doesn't require the power?
Yeah, we haven't crossed that bridge just yet.
Some of the neighboring jurisdictions have started looking into EV on their admin fleet for like the non-response staff, but nothing for a response capability unit.
I'd hate to be transporting an Anne Arundel and have to stop at Royal Farms and charge
right.
out.
Yeah, but it's,
I mean, there's pushing. There's people that are pushing now for a full EV fire truck that's out there, and
that's
I
just
can
a
only
joke.
Just
That's
imagine
just
that.
pie in the sky.
Sorry.
A lot of batteries.
They have a whole 18-wheeler, the whole backside of its batteries.
They're all going to be hydrogen cells. All the big stuff will be hydrogen cells. So
Right, but for the smaller vehicles, right.
smaller vehicles, I'm seeing it in other jurisdictions as well. I didn't know if there was any pressure coming from
Or any grant opportunities where they're.
Well, and that was the other thing, is if we gotta buy something like that, and we do get pushed in that direction, that money gets eaten up pretty quickly by the municipalities and jurisdictions when it does become available, so I would just keep an eye out on it, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the price increase for an EAD either, because it's going to be a significant difference.
I mean, on an ambulance, I could see it, probably not on your transports, you're not gonna be, I mean, or your admin vehicles, I don't think you're gonna,
Those, I'm not too worried about, but a transport unit, I'm pretty worried about.
I don't see transports in the next 15 years, honestly.
No.
Unless hydrogen really makes
Yeah, I
a
don't see
boost,
it.
because it's just too much weight, it's too much, the runtime on them, I mean, and the liability, if it, like you say, you gotta stop at Royal Farms for 3 hours to charge it, that's,
That defeats the purpose.
you have to have a whole lot of MASH units up and down 301 to stop in and help people.
This is what we call Doc from Prospect Bay to come do field surgery. It's fine.
The only thing I'd like to end in is, one, thanking finance, because Karen, I think you answered 100 phone calls from us and assisted us with a lot of things, and you were spot on everything that you did. And Todd, I know this was a tough budget cycle for you, and we appreciate what you've done for us to this point. And if there's any space anywhere in the budget, we do have 3 positions that we're looking for that were cut during this budget cycle that we would appreciate consideration on. Outside of that, we understand, and we, it's in there. But thank you very much for the time, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Major Corbin will be here in less than 5 minutes.
Hey, Doc.
What's what, $20,000 a minute
Something like that, yeah.
that you transfer into DES when he's late?
Someone's like $25,000.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first off, he's got to answer for the broken AEDs, which apparently,
Thank you
apparently
very
they're
much,
hard
Todd.
on them. They're the first hand over here, they got to replace all the ones in the sheriff vehicles. What's up with that? Like El Presidente.
Yeah, makes it easier.
You always got questions on them when you got to go back.
Yeah, it's depressing when you do it page by page. You know what I mean? That's just, wow. That's a lot of,
There's a lot more pages to get to this consolidation, let me tell you.
I know, and I'm just saying, you know, when you look at, I mean, they're always the big shark because of all of the equipment they have that has to be replaced. It's just amazing.
It's a lot, right.
Wow.
Where did you see 8%? Or were you just,
On my cheat sheet that's in the front.
oh, okay.
So is the open,
Yours
so how is
is
it using
another percentages,
open.gov
right?
to do the budgeting now? Pretty good?
Yeah.
Better than it
Have
was
all the
before?
percentages?
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
Don't you think so, Karen? OpenGov?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very user
What do
friendly.
you, what do you cheat, why do you have a cheat sheet? How come you have a cheat sheet and you didn't share with anybody? That's all.
No, we have it for everybody.
Yeah,
You know, we
Todd.
used to get a track and then we percentages.
Oh, yeah, there's no percentages on
Yeah,
it.
well,
This one doesn't have it either.
yeah, but you,
I printed out a separate copy for
right.
Which tab?
It's only the first one that shows these,
Oh, the,
so when you look at these,
this one?
no, right before it. There you go. You don't have them on yours. She has them.
Oh, okay.
I asked them.
Oh, what the rise was, okay, yeah, yeah,
And it makes, you know.
So you know, you don't see them 12% rises in it?
Yeah, well, it's pretty healthy, but then it's.
Where's this one at, just so we know how hard we grill him, since he's late?
I have to go through some preliminary stuff and then you can, you know,
Whoa, we might be here a while on this one.
looking sharp tonight, too.
That must be why the sheriff said he wasn't gonna stay for this. Uh-huh. It's all making sense now.
What's going on?
How are you?
Good.
So based on DES ratting you guys out, why are you breaking all the AEDs in the sheriff's cars?
Have we?
We're hearing, that's what we're hearing. They threw you under the bus before you got here, just know it.
I know, unfortunately, I had to use them. But I didn't know we were breaking them.
Right, uses equipment purchased.
The nerve of them guys.
We don't want to have to use those.
God, no, I know. I wish they had dust on them.
The guy here Tuesday,
Yeah.
that was them using their equipment.
Sheriff's Office. And Jeff, if you want to take us through the budget binder here, and then we'll open it up for questions. And feel free to interject anything you like.
We're on page 77 of your binders. First page shows sheriff revenues, relatively stable, pretty close to what's in the current budget. Next two pages are his sheriff's office expenditures, up 9.2%, almost entirely in personnel, and an increase for LEOPS and workman's comp. Other than that, the line items are relatively stable, same as current budget, more or less. Page 80 and 81 are the grant revenues, match expenditures for grants. Down slightly. Looks like potentially the BJAG grant went away. BJAG?
Yeah, and our highway safety funds for some of the like DUI and speed enforcement, that went down too.
There was an administrative assistant new position enhancement request that is currently under the proposed budget.
We'll also say, just as a sidebar, Major Borbin and I primarily worked through some salary adjustments this past year, so it's an example that we could get, through retention and recruitment procedures, get their deputies up to a $60,000 threshold, and we did that strategically. There was compression, but it's a great example of how you can do that without breaking the bank, so to speak. Like we're kind of facing with Kerwin Blueprint. We've talked with our colleagues. I've talked with our colleagues over at the Port of Ed about that, ways to do that. So we're going to use that as a model. I just kind of came on this here today for working with us on that effort last year. So I think it's really helpful with this team over there at the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Talk about just smoothing out how it get up to it, basically. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A big bump is just.
Yeah, that's right.
So what was the average that went up? I mean, would you say?
We wanted to get above the attractive number, and that's what we did. So, and it wasn't much. It was
I don't know the exact.
$800?
Yeah, something like. I mean, it was strategic. We had to look at, you have to look at the whole scale.
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
just like you just start here and give everybody the same amount, and that's kind of what the blueprint, folks want to try to do. You got to strategically make adjustments and look at your.
Right, because sometimes percentage doesn't match dollars, because you got $100,000 at 2%, or you got 50.
Anything else you wanted to?
No, we appreciate your support and partnership. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Any special ops, narc, any special ops, narcotics, or need
Anybody would have to kill you.
a deputy for that?
They have plenty of deputies for that. They got a whole task force for that.
We have participation in the task force right now with that. Mm-hmm.
Jim left, so I'm saying he's good.
Yeah.
He's either done or he's throwing up. I'm not sure which.
He's really upset.
You're the only department that the electricity is not going up. What's that all about?
I don't know, but
Gotta increase
we just installed 2 EV chargers, so
It might go up.
maybe it'll go up
Right.
now. Yeah, 2 of our investigators' vehicles are going to be plug-in hybrids, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
We're just going around, turn the lights off on everybody.
We got the car plugged in, you guys gotta work in the dark, we got the car plugged in, we can't go up.
Shut the door, the air conditioning's on.
All right. Is that all the paying, Jeff? Are we done for the night?
All for tonight, Commissioners, yes.
So
Need a motion.
guess we have a motion for this, right?
Letter of support for the animal services?
Yes, yes, please.
I will second that. For a letter of support for animal service.
Just say yes.
Yeah, just, it's a,
This is a grant support letter for
Motion, you got it.
the spade and neuter program for animal services. They're applying for a grant.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
now you can adjourn.
And since Phil missed a vote, that's another 25,000. So he's up to 50,000 so far.
I thought it was 75, I thought it was
No,
25.
he hasn't missed the other one yet.
But he's already committed to it, so.
Well, yeah, so when he's not here.
What's the compound interest rate on all that? Motion to adjourn. Well, it's work session, you can adjourn. We opened the meeting, so we'll adjourn. Jim opened her, so we'll adjourn. Tell the sheriff.